Everybody, welcome into the Wednesday morning edition of Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour as we keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of college football. And we continue what has been a wonderful week if you're an Auburn Tiger fan, and probably a pretty miserable week if you are an Alabama football fan. So we did get to hear from some players down in Tuscaloosa yesterday, and we have a little bit of that audio for y'all, and would just be kind of interested to let you hear, I guess, straight from the horse's mouth, how the reaction has been down there since Sunday or Saturday afternoon with the disappointing and shocking loss to Florida State. And I don't know, some things that maybe are just a little odd to hear, some other things that I think could be viewed as encouraging, but we'll let you decide and share a little bit of that with you. We have the latest edition of the AP poll. And of course, as comes with the territory of the situation that the Alabama Crimson Tide find themselves in right now, we have coaching odds to be the next head coach of the University of Alabama. I know a lot of you think that's probably jumping the gun, and it is. It's only one game, but I think we all knew that this would happen. And if Alabama started 0-1, the hot seat talk would begin. And I certainly think there's a little bit of validity to that. And we have odds on it. And we have a couple people yesterday that, hey, I'll put $5 down on this or on that because it could be an interesting long shot. So we'll share some of those with you. We'll also start to turn our attention a little bit to week 2 and just remind you that, yes, there is college football that will be played this Saturday, and hopefully it will be more enjoyable for some of you. But there are some really solid matchups coming up in week 2, maybe not quite as many high-profile ones as week 1, where you had just a phenomenal lineup of top 10 games, but certainly some big ones to get to this weekend as well. So we will start with the Alabama Crimson Tide and getting to hear from some of the players yesterday. So in particular, I would say the one that maybe was the most vocal, or I guess it just felt like he was asked a lot more maybe about the reaction from the players, was actually Josh Cuevas, who was a tight end who transferred over to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, I guess a year and a half ago now. And obviously is now, the starting tight end for Alabama this year. So somebody that I guess you would say is a little bit of a different voice, but I think has an interesting perspective, right? Because he's been in the program for a year now. He's probably more familiar with the coaching staff, or at least a number of these guys, than a lot of the roster is. But, he also has, I guess, his own opinion on the Bama standard and things like that. And so I think it's very interesting that you get to hear a little bit from him. We also have a little bit from Jeremy Bernard. But let's start off with Josh Cuevas and some of the things that he had to say yesterday about his Alabama Crimson Tide. So how about Josh Cuevas? And did the players mention, so after the game, it was very apparent that there was a lack of effort on the field. This is him addressing, did anybody call that out in the locker room after the FSU game?
No reason to call it out because we know that we lose, it's not up to the standard. We're expected to win, and if we don't win, then something's on us, and that's just kind of what we call it. We're watching film every day, damn near every hour of the day, so it's just something that we need to work on and realize ourselves, and there's no reason to call it out when we know we did something wrong.
Okay, so not being called out in the locker room because they should just know it and address it. Similar to how I would view you should just know that you probably need to give effort on the football field. Okay, so that's a little bit of an interesting answer in my opinion. Okay, so they didn't call it out, the lack of effort in the locker room after the game, because it should be obvious. All right, now this is Josh Cuevas. Shortly after that, he was asked what the team's reaction is to people that are now calling them soft.
We don't react. That's just not how we are. I mean, we're not focused on the noise. We're focused on the signal. Sure, we set ourselves back. We know that. We know that we don't need anybody else telling us that. We know that's all there is out there. So we're staying within the team and just kind of moving on from there.
Okay, so no reaction to being called soft. All right, don't have audio of this one, but this is a quote from Josh Cuevas. He was asked about what happened on offense after the opening drive. So 9-minute drive, you score to open the game. Running game looks good. Ty Simpson had that little quick pass for a touchdown. You think things are rolling, and then it comes to a grinding halt. Why did that happen? This is his response. Quote, all I can say is I was out there. We were kind of doing what we were told. That's not really a question that I can answer. It's more of a Coach Grubb kind of answer. It's kind of him calling plays in his rhythm and just how we were fitting into it. Okay. So this is Josh Cuevas when asked about how practice has been this week. A lot of coaches are fed up. That's just kind of how it's going to be the rest of the season. They're always pretty vocal when it comes to practices, details, and stuff, but given the circumstances, we're working harder at that. It's just something they're emphasizing. Well, it's good to know that we're emphasizing details at practice now. And that's, I guess, maybe not something that was being done before. I just think, and again, you can take away what you want from a lot of these quotes. And look, it's a guy that probably doesn't speak with the media a whole lot. And maybe, the way that certain things come off aren't what they are in reality. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess I just find it kind of odd that after opening the season like that, he also revealed that they had a players-only meeting. He claims that they have a players-only meeting before every game, which, I guess that's the case. I don't know. But, when he was asked kind of what was discussed there, it was, we're going to keep that in the locker room, which is good. You don't need to share that stuff publicly or with the media or the fan base necessarily. But it's just kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm like, all right, so we're having players-only meetings before every game, but they already had one after the Florida State game, after the first game of the season, but no one's calling each other out for a lack of effort because that should just be obvious. They don't have a reaction to being called soft because they're just going to go and handle their business. Okay, but why? Why do we? I just don't like a lot of the thing. I'll be honest. Between this, hearing Kane Womack the other day talking about how, well, we weren't surprised by anything we saw defensively on Saturday. Well, it sure looked like it. And, then you have stuff like Kalen DeBoer and Mike Rodak kind of having a back and forth in a press conference because, Mike Rodak's going, well, you said you had a good week of preparation last week. What's that about? And, Kalen DeBoer's did I say that we had good preparation? Yeah, we just heard you, Coach, 2 minutes ago. You said that. And now it's just, I don't know. I still have a lot of question marks, and I just don't necessarily like a lot of the things that I've heard since the Florida State game ended.
Yeah, and I'm kind of feeling the same way. Kind of looking back on it, I kind of see why Coach Saban didn't allow, his coordinators or some of the players outside of, the captains to speak.
Hey, we got to let them build their personal brands, Damian. That's what's more important. We got to let these kids get in front of a camera, get in front of a microphone so they can go sell T-shirts after they beat Alabama like Tommy Castellanos. That's what college football is now.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
I'm not really buying everything because I think that the biggest issue is it's more talking than telling. Not necessarily that. Or your actions on the field should dictate exactly what we see. And to know that, one, you're having players-only meetings this early in the season, all right, cool. You keep everything, in the locker room, understand that. But as far as and this is how I felt since the loss, it's the player accountability. A lot of people have looked at the coaching staff and said a lot of things that, fair or unfair, that a lot of it does kind of weigh on the coaches because they do take the brunt of it. But players also have to take accountability of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of that's interesting, going back to the situation of what happened after the first drive and hearing Josh Cuevas' answer, it doesn't really sit right with me that, that's an offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb question. No, well, if you're on the field, you kind of tell us, the plays that were being called. It's it's not like they were designed to, lose yardage or not get the first down. Just kind of set the scene. Was Florida State giving you a different look than you expected? Or was it, a guy just across from you just better than you? And I know it's tough to admit, but when you go back and kind of look, and I watched the game again yesterday. I'm not saying that, Coach Womack was wrong in saying that, nothing surprises, but I almost think you should have lied and said, they kind of threw some stuff at us that we didn't practice all week, or like there were a few
saying
things.
That makes it so much worse.
Right, because looking at
So
going back
much
and
worse.
seeing what happened,
Yeah.
it's whoo. If you weren't surprised and this is what we got, oh boy. There are some things that we definitely need to clean up. And that's the thing too, that we're sitting here and we're a couple days in, and I've tried to go, look forward to the Louisiana Monroe game and say, what would actually feel good about week 2, because a lot of coaches and a lot of people will tell you that you see the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2, but the bounds that Alabama has to leap over
Yeah.
to show improvement, to at least feel somewhat comfortable, because again, it's no disrespect to Louisiana Monroe, Alabama's expected to win. So even if it is like a 55-0, 63-0 game, you still don't feel confident or comfortable because of the fact that it's an opponent that this is the expected result. And kind of what Cuevas had said, that, we expect to win. You hadn't put in the grunt hours. Like, you hadn't put in the time, the effort, the attention to details, the things that Alabama's teams have done in the past, where yeah, you can believe it, but you don't necessarily need to say that, because if you expected to win that ball game, we shouldn't be able to count lows. Like, even as somebody I'm not on the coaching staff, we shouldn't be able to turn on that TV screen and look at the game and say, oh, they're not giving maximum effort. Like, I shouldn't have to say that. Like, that shouldn't be uttered out of my mouth that, oh, if you are expected to win, then by God, this is not what we need to see. So I'm kind of looking forward to week 2 of the things that you can clean up are like hustling to the football, defensively having 11 hats to the football. The things that made Alabama, I should be able to look at and say, yep, this is what we need to do. I shouldn't be having conversations days after of one that the only person giving it their all was a receiver. Like, I should be able to look at the offensive line. They can maul people off the ball. I should be able to look and say, man, that defensive line, just sweet Jesus, they absolutely wrecked shop on the offense, on the opponent's offensive line. Those are things that we should be able to have conversations about, not sitting here 4 or 5 days later like, wow, was that the best effort that we put out on the football field? That's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and I think it was Quay Russo yesterday that had a comment along the lines of essentially saying, we have championship pedigree in practice and in the meeting rooms. We just need to carry that out onto the field, which, yes, you do. But you don't have championship practice and meeting habits if that's the result on Saturdays. It doesn't mean that individual guys don't. I'm sure there's individual guys that work their tail off. You saw some of those guys on the field on Saturday. But as a team, as a group, just because you play for Alabama doesn't mean you have championship qualities. You have to earn those qualities. You are not guaranteed that because you put on the crimson or the script A. That's not how that works. And I think maybe some guys think, well, we play for Alabama, so we're a championship. That doesn't mean anything. Like, you have to earn that, right? That you establish that yourself each and every year. And right now, that I find it hard to believe that you have those championship pedigree off the field, or I guess behind the scenes, and then the second you step onto a field, I just find it hard to believe that none of that would translate. But maybe I'm a little bit in the wrong there. I will say, and Damian mentioned him briefly, when you got the one wide receiver that seems to be the guy leading the charge and doing things. We even heard from Ryan Grubb the other day. He said, hey, if they're not doing it like Jeremy Bernard, they're doing it wrong. So we heard a lot of things we didn't like from the players this morning. I will say this is something I did like. This is Jeremy Bernard yesterday talking about, kind of what he's trying to instill in his teammates after the loss.
Having pride, lining up other guy next to you, like, this guy's trying to take something away from you. Like, you got to go out there and dominate them every single play. And that's why I'm telling the guys, like, y'all gotta have that pride when y'all go out there and play, bro. Like, this dude trying to stop you from feeding your family. Like, you finna let this dude stop you from feeding your family? Like, nah, I can't let that happen. Like, so everybody gotta play with that edge. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the guys.
See, that's the mentality I like right there. That dude over there, he's trying to keep you from what you deserve or what you've earned. Granted, a lot of these guys haven't earned a whole lot, but just the mentality of that dude's trying to take something from you. Are you going to let him do it? And if the answer is not a resounding hell no, then what are you doing on that football team? But Jeremy Bernard, again, continues to be, I think, a good leader and somebody that embodies what hard work can do for you, even when, it might look ugly around you. There's no doubt. And I think any Alabama fan's mind that he was the best player on the field for Alabama on Saturday. And hopefully that continues and it spreads to some of his teammates. So that's a lot of what you got to hear from Alabama players yesterday. I know that was a lot of thoughts, some good, some bad. But we want to hear from you now. 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the Courtesy GMC text line. We see you on the phone line as well. We get your response to the Alabama players' response to the Florida State loss next on Morning Jox. 6:20 here on your Wednesday morning. Conrad and Damien here with you on Morning Jox. Appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every day. As we continue the Alabama conversation, let you hear from some of the players, and now we are going to hear from you. But first, quickly, if you missed it, the new AP poll coming out yesterday, Alabama, they fall 12 spots, 13 spots. They fall from number 8 to number 21 in the AP poll. You have Florida State. They enter the poll at number 14, so a big jump for the Seminoles. And the Auburn Tigers, they are at number 27. So they are the second, I guess, second most receiving votes in that category after the top 25 is announced. So Auburn still on the outside looking in, but very, very close to being a top 25 team. Alabama, they fall to number 21. Florida State up to 14. You've got LSU. They jump up to number 3 after beating Clemson. Ohio State jumps to number 1 after beating Texas. So a little bit of movement there. But Alabama, the biggest mover, as they fall quite a far ways to number 21 in the Week 2 edition of the AP poll. So let's go to the phone lines here quickly, as we've had some people waiting all morning to get on. Let's start with Richard in Pelham. Wants to talk some Alabama this morning. How we doing, Richard?
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. To me, Marvel Studios likes to talk about, the multiverse and other dimensions and all that, whether you buy into everything. But I believe in sports, especially at a high level, there's an unseen world, okay? And what happens in that unseen world is just as real or powerful as what's happening on the field, okay? And like momentum, when you have momentum, you feel like there's nothing you can do wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the momentum's against you, you feel like there's nothing you can do right. And so there's all kind of things that you can do to create momentum and keep it going, and what Bernard talked about, that edge, okay? And so many battles are won and lost before the game is played or have nothing to do with what's happening because your mind is right. Are you locked in? Florida State took Alabama's best punch there in the first quarter, went down the field, scored a touchdown, but their mind, they were locked in. And so they came right back and threw a punch at us, and we fell down. They didn't. Alabama did. They said, no problem. We're good. And they came back and answered our score and just kept going from there. Okay. And so you just saw talk about, and so when you're the head coach or coaches and you are not locked in and rewarding good play, but also punishing bad play by getting in players' faces and getting mad, you are missing all those chances to create momentum and get players locked in. And so when DeVos is over there clapping or smiling or doing nothing and players are messing up, making mental mistakes, taunting players, you stand over them after you've done nothing, or doing the crimson crane when you're behind, you're missing all those chances to get your players locked in. And so that's the thing about it, is I don't know that they even understand that you've got to get your players completely locked in like Florida State was before the game, and that's on coaching. I mean, yeah, hopefully you have leaders like Bernard, but you've got to have coaches doing that the whole time, and if you do, you have a chance to play your best. I mean, but when you also have negative plays, and somebody doesn't do something about the negative play that just happened, or the mental error, or the silly mistake, or not downing a punt inside the 5-yard line when you got all those guys there, that can send shockwaves across the team. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh gosh, that's a bad play. So somebody's got to stand up and say, no, let's turn this around, make a good play. I can remember umpiring a baseball game, and it's the bottom of the 4th inning. They're changing sides, and you got to, the shortstop and second baseman are loafing around, not really going through the drills right. And the coach says, hey, you're on the bench next time you do that, because what you're doing, loafing around, that's contagious. Everyone's going to see it, and everyone's going to start doing it. So that's the thing. And I just feel like someone needs to be accountable on that, whatever it is in practice, pregame, during the game. Remember Scott Cochran used to jump around doing jumping jacks, keep the energy going. Someone's got to do, hey, guys, there's a game within the game, and we've got to be locked in the whole time. And when negative plays happen, let's find a way to minimize that, and let's go with the positivity and emphasize positivity like Florida State did, and let's just keep this thing rolling, and let's keep the momentum as long as we can. You know what I'm saying? And so when and that's just, I just feel like they're just lifeless out there. They're like there's no anybody really kind of with the momentum or the energy providing that for the team. I wish they could find that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Richard. Appreciate you calling in this morning. Yeah, they certainly need, something we talked about, right? Somebody to hold them accountable. And that goes back to just, I guess what a lot of Alabama fans are used to, honestly, right? Where you were afraid of what Nick Saban would say or what Nick Saban would do or his response would be if you didn't give maximum effort or you made a bad decision. You got a stupid penalty called on you, but you were also worried about what your teammates were going to do because you knew that they were going to hold you accountable. And that's what they need. Certainly. And they need more of that. Let's go to 808s real quick. And Chelsea, he wants to chime in on Alabama as well. How we doing 808s?
What's happening, brothers? Hey, man, what these Alabama fans smoking, dope or dog food, brother?
Maybe a combination of both.
Hey, man, you guys done had the top 10 recruiting class for how many years now?
It's been a while. It's been a while.
So don't hit me with this Alabama hocus pocus. You guys are so freaking spoiled like some freaking brats. You lose one game and you all upset. Auburn go 8-4 and that was a good season. Welcome back to the dark ages. Am I tripping?
I mean, I don't think you're tripping, but I mean, 8-4 is a good year for Auburn. It's not a good year for Alabama. The standard's different at the two programs. I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, sir. So you don't have to coach talent, right? Yes or no?
I mean, you still have to coach talent. It helps to have better talent, but yeah, I mean, you still got to coach it.
The reason I say you don't have to coach talent, Alabama, like you just said, had the best recruiting classes in the last 20 years. When NIL, the best thing they ever did to college football in the portal, it opened up the playing field. Now Bama can't just next man up. You don't have the best. Saban really didn't have to coach talent because he had all the 4 and 5 stars, and now Saban no longer and Bama no longer they have those guys right next to him, but they can call him next man.
Yeah.
Y'all guys are spoiled, so guess what? Now you got to live like the Auburns, the Vanderbilts, Ole Miss. Y'all got to feel them pains that we've been feeling for years, and I'm glad y'all, you can say I'm hating what, I'm glad y'all starting to experience this, and hopefully y'all won't get another 40 years until you get another Saban. War damn Eagle.
Appreciate the call. If I was an Auburn fan, I'd feel the exact same way. I mean, I wouldn't feel bad for Alabama at all. But also people that are, oh, well, Alabama fans are entitled. Well, yeah, they're entitled. Like, what do you expect? That's the point. Like, you're bitter about what's happened over the last 17 years. I get it. I mean, it sucks if you're not an Alabama fan. But, I mean, yeah, that's what people are upset. And don't call up here acting like if Auburn hadn't lost to Baylor that you wouldn't be calling for Hugh Freeze to get fired this week, too. So,
he's been gone.
I'm just saying it's amazing how even yesterday, and Don, would call it and acknowledge this. It's, man, you know how many Auburn fans I've met over the last couple days? It's like, interesting. Yeah, when things start to go well, a lot of people are Auburn fans, but they're not last 5 years. Kind of funny how quickly that changed. Let's go to Larry real quick on the road. Get another call in here. How we doing, Larry?
Hey, guys, just want to make an analogy, and I'm sure people have said this possibly or not, but just from the perspective of us being Bammers, okay, I mean, look at it from this viewpoint. The bottom line is, regardless of what Saban's done in 17 years, you won 6, you played in 9. We roll into Tallahassee with a team that went 2-10 last year. Bama's been at top of the world for so many years. Who cares? It don't matter. All I know is we saw a team in Tallahassee, the Seminoles, that wanted us so bad, and we punched them in the mouth the first quarter. Well, everybody knows that. But I just can't for the life of me, from last year's perspective, when we beat Georgia on top of the world, then we roll into Nashville and just couldn't stop them, and then we blow LSU off the field in Baton Rouge and then go into Oklahoma, which you were there. You know what I'm talking about. I just don't get – I don't understand the mindset and the mentality of these young men, how they want to play and they don't want to play, or I don't know if it's because they're being paid money. I don't know what the factor is, but I know one thing. After the first quarter, I've never seen Alabama look like that in a game in many, many, many years, and that's all I wanted to throw out on the table, guys. Thanks for the show.
Appreciate the call, Larry. And you can continue to chime in as well. Get on the text line, brought to you by Courtesy GMC, 205-834-9450. You can also call in 1-800-239-WJOX. We'll get more of your reaction as we continue the Alabama conversation. A lot of your text rolling in, a lot of Auburn fans responding now, getting into the mix. So more of your response next on Jox. 6:34. Welcome back into Morning Jocks here on your Wednesday morning. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. And the conversation continues. If you had any doubt what we'd be talking about today, yes, we are still talking about Alabama and the loss to Florida State, and some more of it stemming from some of the players that we heard from yesterday. A lot of it coming from tight end Josh Cuevas and just, interesting answers on things like players not being called out for no effort after the game. Don't have a reaction to being called soft because we don't react. Like, obviously, you didn't react on the field on Saturday. But again, just in line with some of the things that you've heard from Coach DeBoer and Coach Grubb and Coach Womack over the early parts of the week as they get ready or try to move on from the Florida State loss and piece things together. Just, I don't know, not my favorite couple of days in terms of what you've heard coming out of the program and what the response has been. And honestly, a lot of it, I'll be honest, is I'm not going to believe it anyways, right? So they could say that they've had the greatest week of practice in the history of college football. Doesn't mean anything to me because what you saw on Saturday doesn't reflect what we heard all throughout fall camp about how good the team looked, how hard they practiced, what the chemistry looked like, the leadership, all of those things that were supposedly off the charts. And then you had a bunch of guys that looked like deer in the headlights on the field on Saturday. But we will keep on with the reaction because I know a lot of you chiming in here with your thoughts. And we'll go to the courtesy GMC text line here for a moment, 205-834-9450, because we haven't gotten to get to any of the text yet. This one says, keep up calling out players, Conrad. You and the Alabama media have the fan base so fired up that Ryan Williams had to delete his Twitch and Twitter accounts due to threats. The losses sure do reveal true colors of the Bammers. Well, and I don't support, I do not support if you do anything in terms of going after somebody personally or taking personal shots at people online. That's real messed up. And I'm sorry, but if you do that, you're a bum. Like, just don't do that. Be a good human being. But no, I'm totally going to call out players for not having effort. Or if you're Ryan Williams and you're getting paid 7 figures and you can tell very clearly that he's scared to get hit. Like, he doesn't want to catch football in traffic and take a shot. But you want to make millions of dollars and be on the cover of a football game, a video game? Okay. No, that's not how that works. And I will call you out for that, and I will call players out for that the entire season. And if you are a fan of, I assume, Auburn or whatever you're a fan of, I would think you would want, your players to be held to that same standard as well. But if you take personal shots at anybody, but especially, kids on Twitter because you don't like the result of a football game on Saturday, you have bigger problems.
Yeah, that's more of a reflection of self.
Absolutely.
That's more of a self-reflection. And I think that, listen, a lot of people have kind of jumped on this bandwagon with Ryan Williams and kind of his antics and stuff. I just look at it from, strictly receiver perspective. You can't have the talent that you have and, to your point, and have fear going across the middle. Mm-hmm. The big money receivers, this is where they get their bank on those third and longs where they're, running dig routes, they're running meshes, and they hold on to the football even through the hit. That's what gets your name bubbled out there. Yeah, we love the spectacular highlight plays. They're awesome. But it's also when it's, 3rd and 7, you got to get that stick route and get into the meat of the defense. If I'm Ty Simpson, I need to know I can put it right there on you, somewhat protect you, but also you got to make those difficult catches. Like Jeremy Bernard, again, it goes back to him. He was all over the field. They were treating that brother like Debo Samuel. Like, he's lining up in the backfield. Like, he's going in and out. He's outside the numbers, inside the numbers. The things that I was so frustrated with is the hesitancy, the kind of stopping in the middle of the routes type of things, or not running full speed. Like, those are things that we could, if I'm Jamarcus Shepard, I'm probably seething at watching what number 2 did on a lot of those plays. And it's like, bro, what are we doing? You already have the blanket. Everybody's kind of spotlighting you anyway. How about you run your route to get your other guy open? And situations like that, you have to be you have to be coachable. You have to be a great teammate, and also when your number is called, make the plays because again, receiver they're so limited. Like we are doing things that we have no idea if we're going to get the ball or not, but we have to explode off the ball. There are steps that we have to take. There are routes that we know. If all else fails, we are the emergency. Just the play is broke down. We're the last in the progression. But we have to give the illusion somewhat that, oh, man, he may take the top off me in this play. He may be the first read on this play. But you have to run your routes at full tilt, full speed. And that's the thing that we cannot, we just cannot have and we cannot tolerate in that receiver room.
This text rolls in, says, call him out. Bray Hubbard was out there jogging on Saturday going through the motions. I hate Alabama, but it was tough to watch that.
Exactly, and that's what I've been trying to explain to people. It's not even the fact that it was Alabama. If any team in college football had effort like that, that's piss poor. Like it's absolutely atrocious. It's at a higher premium because it's Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've never had a situation where we're questioning guys' effort, and I think that's where it's so puzzling that we've gotten to this point. And I'm even trying to pinpoint like what is the issue here because. It's something different if you're, again, coaches will tell you, as long as you're giving me 100%, we can correct everything else. If you're giving me, well, I had a position coach, my receivers coach, Cody Piercy, he used to tell us all the time, all I want is all you got. That's give me absolute effort on every single snap. We can get somebody in for a couple plays and then you get back out there, but the fact is I want to know after every single snap, after every single play, we can correct all the things like, oh, you didn't go far enough on your route. But did you give me maximum effort at full tilt all the time? That's all I need to know. All I want is all you got.
Yeah, CJ chimes in on the courtesy GMC text line. All Ryan Williams is worried about is being cool and trying to make one-handed catches. Someone told me that the whole time during pregame Saturday, he was just making one-handed catches for everything. Let's see. Dave from Winfield. Fans of other programs are having a ball watching the struggles of Alabama. These same fans would give their pinky toe to be an Alabama fan. Bama's had 2 dynasties. How many have you got? Let's see. This text coming in, I'm assuming in response to 808's call earlier in the show. He says, but Hugh Freeze didn't lose. He actually coached his recently acquired talent, and he absolutely did that. And that's why Auburn beat Baylor on Friday. And let's see. He also says, Ryan Williams has been a wide receiver 3 since the Georgia game last year. His stats certify my statement. He hasn't done crap since the president called him after beating Georgia. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. He hasn't had over 100 yards in 10 straight games. And he is, I mean, again, I don't know what the NIL breakdown is. I would imagine that he's probably the highest paid player on that roster, though, or at least in the top 2 or 3 highest paid players on that roster. And what you got from him on Saturday is unacceptable. And I know he's concussed now, and I hope that he makes a recovery from that and is able to go out there soon and redeem himself. But, yeah, it's been a while since you've seen Ryan Williams be the star player that he is, apparently, or seemed to be, at least through the first handful of games last season. So keep the reaction coming in. We got a lot more text rolling in, 205-834-9450. We still have your calls. Cliff Landers, see you on hold. Hang on just a minute. We'll get to you more reaction to Alabama in response to Florida State and how the players have responded since Saturday, next on Morning Jox. 6:48 as we roll along on the Wednesday morning edition of Morning Jox. Connor and Damien here with you, as well as many of our listeners, as we continue to get your response this time to some of the players' responses, or I guess what we heard from the players yesterday, as Alabama had some of their players speak with the media, just kind of talking about the response post-Florida State loss, and Josh Cuevas having a lot of things to say. You got to hear from Jeremy Bernard, Quay Russaw as well. And, I mean, they're all taking accountability for the loss, right? Like, they all are acknowledging, hey, that was not good enough. That's not what this team is trying to be. This is not acceptable for this team. But, then you also have the comments from Cuevas along the lines of, well, no, we didn't call each other out for not having effort. You should just know to have effort. Well, obviously you didn't. So somebody maybe needs to address that. We know that they've had a players-only meeting already after the Florida State game, and they haven't, talked about that or what was said, but they've already had that. Now, they've also said they do that every week, but I feel like this one is probably a little bit different. Apparently the coaches are fed up at practice. You're hearing some things that you could take away and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's, maybe they are turning things around. Maybe they did get the message. But again, should a message have had to have been sent after the first week against Florida State? I think that's, the issue that a lot of people have. And that's a lot of what we're hearing on the response from you, the listener, as well. So we've got a bunch of text on the Courtesy GMC text line, but let's get a couple calls in here as well, as some of you have been waiting by for a while now. Let's go to Cliff in Mississippi. He wants to chime in on Alabama. How we doing, Cliff?
Good. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, man. What's on your mind?
I've been an Alabama fan. I've been a Bama fan since 1973. I was 9 years old. Now I'm 62. I've never seen anything like this, and I feel like Norman Pinter had turned it into a poodle. And I don't think the ship will be right until the University of Alabama East Crow picks up that telephone and calls Dabo Swinney. We've got to get Dabo Swinney in Tuscaloosa. We need kids who love the University of Alabama and know what it means to put on that crimson jersey. Thanks, guys, and have a good day.
I appreciate you, Cliff. All right, Cliff wants to see Dabo in Tuscaloosa. I think the fan base maybe would have rallied behind you after a Clemson win over LSU, but now maybe that maybe a little bit harder sell for some of the fans. Let's go to Landers and Beham. Landers, how we doing this morning?
Oh, doing good, man. How about y'all?
Doing well, man. Doing well. What's on your mind about Alabama?
Just real quick, man. Just kind of like he said, I have been an Alabama fan my whole life. So first half of my life, I dealt with the mics and the mics and the mics and the dentists. So
yeah,
to say that Alabama has never had to deal with something like that is a little bit ridiculous. But I did want to comment to say I am completely upset with our team. It is what it is. But we have to be realistic. We don't have Saban. We're stupid to think that Kalen DeBoer is going to be the next coming of Saban. It's just kind of how these eras come. We shouldn't expect that. Right now, we should expect to just every year have a good recruiting class and try our best to make it into the playoffs, just like a lot of other teams. But I am completely with you. I can blame people all day, but if you're an internet troll, you're an absolute garbage human being, and I'll end it with that. Thanks,
thank you, Landers. I couldn't agree more with that. Could not agree more with that. All right, let's go to the Courtesy GMC text line here. Try to get some more of these texts in before we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. Greg chimes in, says, I wonder who led the players-only meeting and why didn't they lead during the game? I will say, I think my understanding was, I don't know if he led the meeting, but I know Ty Simpson certainly had a message for the team afterwards, and that was one of the things that Cuevas was, we're not going to disclose that, not going to talk about that, but Ty Simpson did have some things to say at some point after the Florida State game to his teammates. This text rolls in. It says, players shouldn't need to call players out. That's the coach's responsibility. As the great Bob Knight said, players understand ass to bench. Okay, and I understand that a lot of that does come to coaches, but I look at it like this, right? When you're a kid, if your parents tell you not to do something, you're probably going to do it anyways because you're curious as to what's going to happen and you want to rebel. But if one of your friends tells you not to do something, you're more likely to listen to your friends than your parents. And maybe some of you were different than that, but I feel like for a lot of young people, right, if you have a peer that comes up to you and says, hey, you're not holding yourself accountable to the same standard as me, I think a lot of people respond to that maybe easier than an authority figure. Now, some people maybe go the other way, but I certainly believe that there is absolutely room for calling out teammates if they're not being held or not putting forth the effort that you need to see. Let's see. This text comes in and says, I like Kalen DeBoer, but I think he might need to replace the defensive coordinator. CJ Times in says, why is everyone bringing up Nick Saban? Do they not realize he wouldn't be dominating the way he was if he was still coaching? The NIL and transfer portal changed that, and he lost 3 games his last year. That's certainly fair. And I do think one thing that, we talk about is how undisciplined Alabama has been and with the penalties and things and not being good on the road. And that's stuff that affected Nick Saban his last couple of years as well. So this isn't all totally new territory for Alabama. Let's see. Somebody says, what if you heard about John Gruden going to Alabama? Don't think you're going to see that.
I don't think that's going to work.
Don't think you're going to see that. Let's see. How do Alabama coaches coach up being more physical?
You can't.
You can't. That's a great question. You can't really do that.
That's got to be their decision. This is that is on the players. They can teach you technique. They can teach you where to strike, where to shed, where to target. But the players have to go out there and do it. They have to do it.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Drake says Bama will be okay. It's just one game. Yeah, well, for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like it's going to be okay. This says Ryan Williams is going to get ready to transfer to West Virginia, get coached up by Rich Rod, and be the next coach Tavon Austin.
I don't think that would. The things that Rich Rod would say to that dude, I don't think it would be I don't think it'd be a good fit.
This text rolls in. All will be made clear by the end of the first quarter Saturday in Bryant-Denny.
See, exactly. You go out there and hang 35 on Louisiana Monroe in the first quarter, we're having a completely different conversation.
And we'll end it with this one. Jason says, I can accept losing when you're giving 110%.
Boom. And let the chips fall where they may.
I think a lot of people would agree with that sentiment. So appreciate all the reaction this morning. Appreciate you joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. But McElroy and Kublik in the morning, those guys are up next.